You're listening to Entrepreneur's Enigma, a podcast about the ups and downs of the entrepreneurial journey. Every week, your host Seth Goldstein interviews entrepreneurs from all walks of life about their entrepreneurial journeys. From store owners to Fortune 500 CEOs, we all have stories to tell. So sit back and join us for the next 20 or so minutes while we explore the entrepreneurial world.
Hey everybody, welcome to another edition of the Entrepreneur's Enigma podcast. I am, as always, your host after 260-something episodes. You know who I am by now. I have Brad Storm here, a good buddy of mine from Alignable and from the networking world. He is a voiceover artist. He is a consummate side hustler. He's a spokesperson for a law firm. He's been in the journalism world. He does real estate voiceovers. The guy has a great voice, really. I mean, obviously, if you're in a voiceover artist.
You.
Why, thank you very much.
Well, thank you very much. Well, thank you.
Exactly. He got a degree in journalism with minors in English from the University of Georgia.
Go Dogs.
Exactly. And then in 2011, he went back and he's like, he wanted to understand radio a little bit more. He was going into radio. He was like, I want to understand more. So he went to Connecticut School of Broadcasting and discovered his passion for voiceovers and honed the art of operating a successful podcast with MMA Mayhem Radio. Exactly.
Right.
And so his real name is not Brad Storm. It's Brad.
Yeah. My name's not, my real name is not Brad Storm. It's Brad Lanou.
But it's very
I've
French.
been going by Brad Storm since I was like 19, 20 years old.
So people knew you as Brad Storm, so it is what it is. So how's it going, buddy? How you doing?
It's good, man. I can't complain, you know. Lots of opportunities on the horizon.
Awesome.
Getting out of my comfort zone in certain aspects of my life, and just being fearless, you know. Write this.
You
word
have
down
to be
every day. Fearless.
You have to be nowadays, my friend. You have to be. It's really what it is. So you started your journey. How did this whole journey start? How did you find? We know you kind of fell into voiceovers when you were at School of Broadcasting, but how did the whole journey start? You went to the University of Georgia for journalism.
Yep.
And what did you do after that?
Yeah, I went to the University of Georgia, and I also was on air over at 90.5 WUOG. It was a college station, you know. I had a spot from 3 to 6 in the morning. That's where you started.
Oh, God.
You know, and I didn't have a car. My parents didn't let me drive my Firebird down there, so I had to keep it at home, but I had to walk. So I walked like a couple of miles, like 2 o'clock in the morning. I'd walk into the studio, crank it on, you know, and play records, and I'd play tapes, and you were allowed to play one song an hour of your choice. So back in like the mid-90s, I always chose hair bands. That was one. And I had this, I had a CD, and it was the best of WWF wrestling singing or something like that. And it'd have the Hulkster singing, and it'd have Macho Man. He'd be like, oh yeah, snap into a Slim Jim, you know? And
of course, at 2 to 6 in the morning, everyone's like sleeping or just they're coming home from their late shift or something. They're like, this is nuts.
And I'd get calls, and there'd be some creepo, and they'd call, and he's like, oh, I'm thinking of you while I listen to this song. And I'm like, okay. I'm 19 years old. I'm like, okay, weirdo, goodbye.
And click FCC violation coming up. Nope.
Yeah. And so it was a good experience. I loved radio. And then I got to intern at 790 The Zone, sports talk over in Atlanta. And guys like Jamie Dukes and Steak Shapiro and
these names, yeah.
And so
you kind of had to get Brad Storm. You kind of had to have it.
How did I get Brad Storm? Well, I stumbled upon. Well, I loved wrestling. I loved pro wrestling growing up. Anything I could do to be around a wrestling ring, I would do it. You know, we went to the Omni back in the day over in Atlanta, and I got to see Andre the Giant and Hulk Hogan.
Oh,
you know,
wow.
Go at it, toe to toe, Coco Beware. I also got to see WCW in action, the Steiner brothers, Doom, Lex Luger, Ric Flair. I mean, those guys, they were the cream of the crop to me. And so I was like, how do I get involved in this? So lo and behold, I was in a bowling alley in 97, I think. And I saw a guy, he was working at the bowling alley. He was like, he had a Starcade shirt on. That was one of the big events in WCW back in the day.
Yeah.
I think it is still, well, WCW no longer exists, but it was a
Huh.
big event. And so I was like, hey man, I love that pay-per-view. That was a great pay-per-view. And he's a real skinny guy. He's got a kind of a goatee. He's like, he was in his 40s. He's like, yeah, I do. I referee for wrestling. I said, you referee for wrestling? What do you mean? WWE or it was WWF at the time?
Yeah.
And so the guy, no, I do local stuff everywhere around the Southeast. And I said,
Wow.
what? Local? What do you mean? He's like, there's wrestling all over the place. And I said, no way. And this guy, his name, just like with Brad Storm, his name was Straight Call Star Stevens. And
That's a long one. Yeah.
yeah, and so there he is. He's a wild one.
Oh,
That was his
wow.
place back in the day. That's all of his wrestling shows that he was a part of. And he lived in Tampa. But,
Oh, wow.
he became my mentor,
Oh, wow.
and he would take me to all these shows that were in, it was a big,
And you
huge
met him in a
indie.
bowling alley.
I met him in a bowling alley.
That's wild, man.
You never know like what fate is going to come about, because if you don't get out there, you're not meeting people, right? And that's
No,
very
you gotta get
important.
out there.
And as a
Absolutely.
young guy, I was always getting out there, and I was always eager to, I wanted to be a part of wrestling. Now,
Mhm.
did I want to be a wrestler? I'm 5'8", and I was probably about 170 pounds back then. So,
You have been
and,
snapped in half.
yeah. And, they didn't have the guys like they have today, like doing a billion flips, and they're real
Yeah.
skinny, and they didn't have it. It was all big dudes, and they're ready to
Like Andre the
destroy.
Giant. Yeah.
Yeah, and there was guys that they were called stiff. They were stiff in the wrestling industry. They would hurt you, and if
Oh,
they would also do shoots on people. Like if somebody was messing around with somebody else's wife, they would do a shoot in the ring and try to break their leg or break their arm. I mean, it was pretty legit. And so I was like,
wow.
do I want to be a referee? Not really. But what I wanted to be a ring announcer.
I can see
I
that.
I
Voiceover. Yeah.
I was behind a mic doing radio, and I felt like that was my comfort zone, and that I could excel in that area. So along the ride, when I met my mentor, I also interned with World Championship Wrestling. So I did internship with them, and it was not like it wasn't what I had expected. It wasn't what I expected. I mean, yeah, granted, I don't mind paying my dues at all. I
Yeah.
paid my dues in the fire business. I paid my dues in voiceover. I paid my dues
Yeah.
in a lot of different places. And I was like, okay, great. I think they're going to love the fact that I'm a ring announcer doing all these local shows. Well, they didn't like that. They didn't care. They didn't care. Rightfully so. I get it. They got their big names that they have. But I thought maybe I could be an understudy somewhere. I had some great conversations with some great wrestlers. I was able to
Yeah.
call a lot of them, tell them their packages were coming to them. But, but I would have long conversations with these people. And that's one thing I got out of it, but it didn't lead anywhere. It didn't lead anywhere.
Sometimes you
But
gotta pivot. Sometimes
yeah.
you gotta pivot. Yeah.
So Brad Storm wasn't the initial name. I was Bad Brad.
Bad
Bad
Brad.
Brad. 19, 20 year Bad Brad,
I like Brad
the-
Storm better. Yeah.
Yeah, and so like I love stuff. I like stormy weather. I liked rain. I like the character Storm in Marvel. And so, I was like, man, that's kind of catchy, Brad Storm. And then then eventually down the road I'd hear, oh, there's a Lance Storm, and then there's another Storm. I said, yeah, but I'm unique.
You're
I'm unique to myself. You can't bring the thunder without the storm. When it rains, it pours, baby. Because back in the late 90s, early 2000s, I was the best looking ring announcer commentator on the face of the earth today.
Love it, man. Love
And
it.
I got some heat. I got some heat in the ring as a ring
Yeah.
announcer. What I found out as the years progressed, I was with Connecticut School of Broadcasting, a great school to learn, reporting and radio. But it's funny. It was Connecticut School of Broadcasting, but we were in Georgia.
Yeah,
And so,
it's franchise. It's
yeah,
not
so
franchise,
yeah.
but it's like with everything is now. Everyone has a satellite campus. Yeah.
Right. It was a satellite campus. And, I drive back and forth. I was a fireman for 16 years. And
Wow.
I
Thank you
love
for
to
your
come.
service. That's hard work.
It's hard work. It is hard work. It depends on
Scary.
where you're at. I mean, we were right next door to Atlanta, so we were pretty busy.
Yeah.
But I love the camaraderie. I loved being part of a team.
Mhm.
These were all things that I learned in the fire business. I also taught fire safety to
Oh,
children. So that was something I really did enjoy. But I'd be going back and forth to work and I'd hear this commercial. I'd be like, do you want to be a broadcaster? Do you want to
I
be on
remember
the
those.
radio? Well, now you can with the Connecticut School of Broadcasting. It has everything and more. So I was just like, man, I'm going to give this a shot. It's not too far from where I live. And
Yeah.
I signed on the dotted line, and I would sometimes do double up my classes because I had a 24/48 rotation with the fire
Yeah, the
department.
yeah.
And so I would stay the whole day over there at the school most weeks, just trying to absorb and learn how to edit
Mhm.
audio and learn how to
Make
edit
the
video.
most of your money. Yeah.
Yeah, and plus, yeah, it wasn't like the cheapest thing going. So I wanted to make sure I benefited from what I was paying, right? So
Absolutely.
that's always the
Soak it
key.
all in.
And so I stumbled upon these guys,
Yeah.
and they were talking about wrestling one day. They were in one of the studios and talking about wrestling behind the mics. I think they were running a podcast. And
Ooh.
I said, hey guys, I said,
Early 2000s, right?
this was like actually in 2011. This was
Yeah, so
2011.
like the second round of OG. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And so I met these guys and I said, hey, I was involved in wrestling and I was doing play by play with one of my other mentors and co partner in crime, Total Protection, Mr. Hughes. He's no doubt about it. Oh, yeah, Total Protection. He went by the Big Cat in WCW, Mr.
Nice.
Hughes in WWE. He stole The Undertaker's urn.
Oh
Um,
wow.
and was and he's training guys at the WWA Force School in Smyrna, Georgia, which was
There you
pretty
go.
close to where WCW used to be. It's right near Six
Mhm.
Flags over there. Um, but he was a mentor of mine, and I was doing commentary with him, and I was brushing up on my commentary skills because one
Yeah.
thing
We're going to take a quick break here from our sponsors and get right back to the show.
I had to learn in commentary that you were painting the picture, and
Mhm.
even like doing one-on-one interviews, it's not about, I always wanted to be over top. I always loved being over the top,
Yeah.
but there's a fine line. What I had to realize is that you didn't want to take center stage. You don't,
No.
you don't want to take center stage. And so through working with Total Protection and through, I landed a gig with a company called Rampage Pro Wrestling. And they were
Nice.
Warner Robins, I believe that show took place, and it was taped for television.
Oh
And
wow, you're a television personality now.
yeah, yeah, ooh, wow, it was challenging too, man. It was
I bet,
challenging
yeah.
because even though with social media, even though with Facebook and all that, you can reach out to these wrestlers. But initially, when I went to that first show, I didn't know any of these wrestlers. I didn't
That's
know
awesome.
any of them. And so they
Wow.
go, okay, well, me and Mike is taking on the Storm or the Destroyer, and they're having a bout, and they're going to be fighting at the Thanksgiving Bash on the 27th. So you need to go. And so I had to be able to think on my feet.
Yeah.
There was a guy there, his name by the name of Josh Wheeler. He was a really smart guy, a great promoter, good commentary guy. He gave me some advice, and I took it to heart, man, because being so excited and over the top, doing all these interviews, it's exhausting.
It
It's
is.
exhausting. By the end of the show, I'd be like, oh my god, you know. But I
Time
learned
for
to
a
just,
nap.
yeah, time for a nap, and I had like a 3-hour drive to head back
Yeah.
home. But
Oof.
I just learned to tone it down.
Turn it
And
down, which is all good for the voiceover art. You can improvise. You need to do all that stuff, but
well,
it helps
voiceover,
to
yeah. I mean, you got to have a
voiceover's
lot of,
key.
you have to have a lot of volume in voiceover, and
And
you got to know,
and
you got to figure
variety
out,
too.
yeah, exactly. You have to figure out when to be loud. You have to figure
Mhm.
out when to be quiet. This takes time. It takes a lot of time and a lot of
Yeah.
practice behind a mic.
It does. And look, I mean, before the show, you were in your sound booth and you moved over to your computer.
Yeah,
But like
yeah.
literally having a good sound is key. That's one thing I like about
Yeah, yeah.
podcasting is it doesn't have to be has to be decent sound, in my opinion. It
Right.
doesn't have to be voiceover words. Like, on the radio, you can't have background sounds.
No,
On a
unless it's
podcast,
Foley.
if a dog barks on a podcast, it barks on
Yeah.
a podcast. It is what it
Yeah,
is.
and that's another thing too. When I've done a lot of podcasting in the past too.
Yeah.
And the MMA Mayhem radio show evolved from talking to those guys about wrestling because MMA started it's just started exploding into the stratosphere.
That shit's scary.
Forrest Griffin, Stephen Bonner, and the first Ultimate Fighter TV show. That fight was epic. It really made
brutal.
me. Yeah, it was brutal. It was brutal.
I mean,
They
wrestling,
went
you don't
toe
see
to toe.
blood as much. MMA, you
Right.
see blood.
Yeah. On a side note, I used to host the Abdullah the Butcher show in Atlanta. So you want to talk about blood in wrestling? Abdullah the Butcher was like he scared the crap out of me too, by the way. So even when he was in a walker, he'd be like, "Go get me some lunch meat and make me a sandwich." I was like, "Okay, Abdullah, whatever you want."
That's awesome.
But
So now you're still in the entrepreneurial journey. You're doing
forever.
voiceovers. You're doing real estate videos. You're a spokesperson for a law firm, which is really cool. So a bunch of hustles. I don't like to call them side hustles because they're all hustles.
They're all hustles.
What is the best thing about being an entrepreneur versus working for the man?
I think the best thing about being an entrepreneur is that you can network and meet so many different types of people if you're not afraid.
If you're not afraid, it's okay. Yeah.
If
or
you're
you have
not
to get out of their comfort zone. Yeah.
Yeah, it's okay to be an introvert, but you have to be able to separate, hey, you spend some time by yourself, that's great. But you need to go out. You need to go out and meet people. And with Alignable too, I used to go to those breakout sessions, right?
Yeah.
And I'd talk about my business. Somebody would talk to me, and then they hit me up, and it's sale, 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 sale,
No,
sale.
it's about giver's gain. It's about helping other people.
Giver's gain.
Yeah.
About giver's gain. But at the same token, what I've realized too is that, okay, this person wants to sell to me. I don't want to buy his services or her services. However, I might know somebody that might.
Exactly.
And if you're not like too pushy, because I'm not into the, you got to, like you say, we all learn know, like, trust, every, blah,
all that good stuff. Yeah.
I got to be able to trust you. It's going to take some time. But once I trust you and once I know you and I like you, I can refer you to my friends
who might need your service. Exactly.
Right. So, hey, I might not need your business coaching. I might not need your, whatever your business is, services, but I have a plethora of friends that I know and I do business with in the entrepreneurial side here locally, and also with my voiceover business, because I run a voiceover group. I'm part of voiceover groups. I know a lot of different people.
You know a lot of people. Exactly. So on the flip side, what keeps you up at night being an entrepreneur?
What keeps me up at night is failure. The idea of failure, the idea of, or the idea of failing. And how do I bounce back?
I like that. How you bounce back, because failure is only failure if you give up afterwards.
Right.
Otherwise, you learn from your failure, you get up, you dust yourself off, you keep going.
Yeah. And that, my slogan is, when life gets you down and you feel like you can't go on, you need to punch every day in the face. And that's what it's about, man. That's what it's about. So you got to punch every day in the face.
Exactly. And make it count. So what is the most important thing to carry with you all the time besides the microphone?
What's the most important thing to carry with me is my pen and my phone.
Yeah.
Because
why your pen?
Because you're meeting people. I'm always meeting people now. I'm doing one-to-ones locally. I'm meeting people through Zoom. I got to write things down. I got to be able to write things down.
The old brain, yeah.
Yep. And I'm going to be 49. I'm not saying I'm old, but I'm going to be 49 March 1st. So that's like what?
Almost happy birthday.
This Saturday. Yeah.
Yeah. When this comes out, you'll be 49.
Yeah. And so there's a good friend, a mentor of mine and a friend of mine, Corey Disson. He's the heavyweight champion of marketing. And on my podcast, VO's Padded Room podcast, we interviewed him, but he always said, carry a pen around. The power of the pen.
The power of the pen. Awesome.
And so I need to document. If I don't have my pen, I'll get my phone, I'll take notes. I want to make sure that, the referral partners that I create, that I know what message they're trying to convey.
And how you can help them so they can help you.
Right.
Exactly.
And I was told a very interesting thing the other day,
Mhm.
and I'm very excited these days. It's like, it's exciting to learn. It's exciting to grow. Being a business owner wasn't my specialty. I didn't go to school for business, and it's always great to be able to learn. But
Mhm.
if somebody's talking to me and I go talk to somebody about them, and I don't really know what I'm talking about,
Yeah, it's not good.
that's not my fault.
Mhm.
So if I go into a business group, and I'm a voiceover artist, and I'm explaining to other people about my business, but then they go talk to you, maybe you, Seth, and they go, "Hey, well, Brad's a voiceover artist. What is that?" Oh,
Exactly. You have to educate them on what you do so
yeah,
they can better sell you and get your
yes,
message out across and be your sales team.
yep.
Abso-freaking-lutely.
You got to educate the people, and if they have if they're like, "Oh man, I still don't understand," meet with them again. Meet with them
Yeah,
again.
show them your stuff. Exactly.
Meet with them again. I mean, I got a portfolio of all my work on YouTube.
Yeah.
I'm updated my website, bradstormvo.com. But it's up to us to educate, especially if you're not in voiceover or audio engineering or anything like that.
Mhm.
We got to educate.
Educate, educate, educate. So, Brad, where's the best place to find you hanging out online?
You can find me on my website, bradstormvo.com. I'm on Facebook, bradstormvo. And if you just look up Brad Storm, you can find me everywhere. I'm on YouTube, Alignable, LinkedIn,
Is ever
um,
look for a
every
good guy,
place.
look for a
Just
good-looking guy screaming
yeah,
at the picture.
lightning and a mic. I'm lightning
I
and a
love it,
mic.
buddy. I love it, buddy. Well, Brad, this has been so much fun.
How quick was that?
Isn't that fun? Isn't that fun?
Yeah, I love it. Love
It's a
it.
commute time. Exactly.
Hey, really quick, can I make a plug?
Sure, make a
Um,
plug, of course.
my buddy runs Corey Rhymes. He runs the VO Academy. If you're looking for something that's interesting in the world of voiceover, where you get a new mentor every month that specializes
Ooh.
in something different in voiceover,
Mhm.
well, that is a place you might want to check out. The VO Academy. Check it out at the voacademy.ca. And
All right,
also
we'll put that in the show notes. Yeah.
VO's Journey with Anthony Pica. Very talented marketer, voiceover artist. He's been running a VO's Journey since before COVID. I mean, he's been
Oh,
doing it for a
wow.
while. And he
And
has
you have your mastermind too, which
yeah,
which I was
man.
a pleasure being on. So yeah.
The Fortress of Voiceover Solitude. Talk about I love superheroes and superpower
Fits
figures.
into it. Yeah, exactly.
But it's free. It's a free group, and I have guest speakers. We do casting call sessions, and all you have to do is reach out to me. So look me up and reach out to me, and I'll have a one-on-one with you and get to know you, and then I'll invite you into the group.
Very cool, Brad.
Yeah,
And
man.
we'll see everyone next week.
That was a great show. If you're enjoying Entrepreneur's Enigma, please consider giving us a review in the podcast directory of your choice. Every review helps us reach new listeners. If you like Entrepreneur's Enigma, consider the other shows on the Marketing Podcast Network at marketingpodcast.net.
Goldstein Media hopes you have enjoyed this episode.